Hello, everyone, and thanks for listening to the Quality Hub, chatting with ISO experts. I'm your host, Xavier Francis, and today I'm here with two very special guests, Kevin Franklin, Chief Product Officer at LRQA, and Scott Dawson, President of Core Business Solutions. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you, X. Really appreciate it.
X, it's my pleasure, as always, on the Quality Hub.
Always a lot of fun. Great to have you both here. Now, in case you're wondering, today's topic is a little different for a lot of our listeners, but it's very timely and very important. And we're going to be talking about AI, risk, and what comes next, understanding ISO 42001. But before we get started, let's learn a little bit more about Kevin and Scott and their journeys. Let's start with Kevin.
Absolutely, with pleasure. Thanks again, X. My current role, as you shared, is Chief Product Officer for LRQA, and I also lead one of our strategic growth initiatives called EIQ, which is a supply chain intelligence platform. From a background perspective, I worked in systems really for the last 20 to 25 years. My PhD was focused on soft systems theory. I've done a lot of work in the management system space, trained auditor to 14001, SA1000, 1464, AA1000, so a range of different management system standards and related. I have also, of course, been very actively involved in the product development process at LRQA and am a very keen user of AI and, of course, the governance of AI, both within EIQ, our own systems, and implementing that in a fair and responsible way for our clients.
Well, that's great to hear. A lot of experience. Really appreciate having you on today. Scott, how about you?
Yeah, thanks, X. It's really great to be here. As I mentioned, I've been president of Core Business Solutions now for almost 25 years. Can't believe that. We were thrilled to join LRQA as an acquisition this past year and excited to work with Kevin and his team. This particular topic of AI and AI governance really fits in with all of the management system work that we've done over the years, especially with small businesses, ISO 9001 and cybersecurity standards like ISO 27001. And the use of AI, new technology, it also brings risk with it, not only to large corporations, but to small businesses as well. So we've been dabbling with AI ourselves. We've been learning some of the tools, trying to keep up because it's just changing, it seems like week by week. But excited to be here, excited to learn from Kevin and share what we can to try to understand how this might apply in a small business context.
Absolutely. I know, Scott, we started with AI early at Core Business Solutions. You kind of got us on that role, and we've been looking at it for a long time. And I'm really anxious to hear what Kevin has to say about 42001 and some of the governance that brings. Well, fabulous. Let's get started with some of our questions, and we're going to start with Kevin. AI has such an important role in companies now. Why does there need to be governance?
That's a great question, X, a really great question, and also very timely, both in terms of the AI part of the question and the governance part of the question.
Mm-hmm.
I think most of our listeners will already be using and dabbling with AI themselves, whether it's one of the varied generative AI tools out there, or actually just embedded into many of the applications that they're experiencing every day or in their own companies. But what is increasingly clear to pretty much everyone is that AI is not just a tool, but it's a strategic business imperative. And it is a central part of really what will shape an efficient and high-performing business moving forward. Most businesses today will be looking at how they can leverage and use AI to drive additional value for customers, to drive efficiency into their organizations, and to get competitive advantage in what is an increasingly hyper-automated economy. So part one is really the strategic imperative.
Yeah, I know for us at Core Business Solutions, I work with Scott, we've been using it, and the efficiency part is just amazing about how just using the generative AI to write a better paragraph, to do a little research for you, to make it, more efficient for me in podcasts, do my podcast. And it's nice to have it look at the transcription and give me a description. I don't have to listen to it again and take notes. It can do it for me. So I can imagine it's across the board. It's just so many people are using it.
Right, exactly. And you've kind of taken us into the second reason why this is so important, which is, as you're starting to use AI yourself, and I'm sure many of our business listeners will feel the same, there are risks that start to become apparent, right? It does hallucinate. The way some of the algorithms work can lead to false recommendations. What it may put forward as a potential script for a podcast like this
Yeah.
may not actually reflect the reality. So, part one is the strategic imperative, the business need, the efficiencies, automation, everything. Part two now starts to lean into the governance question, risk, and getting in front of the risk question around AI, which is something we haven't really had tools to do and support moving forward. And ISO 42001 definitely supports with that. And then there's the whole regulatory piece. We're also seeing a lot more regulation coming up in the AI space, particularly the European Union AI Act, which is the first really big piece of regulation. But there are many other countries and stock exchanges, et cetera, that are pushing forward similar initiatives. So we expect to see a lot more there. And then stakeholders, clients, customers, other users are starting to ask questions around the ethics of AI, how well the respective tools have been designed, developed, and are being rolled out. Are people being unfairly discriminated against in any use of AI, et cetera? So strategic imperative, risk and getting in front of that question, managing regulations, and also getting in front of stakeholder pressure. 4 really important and compelling reasons why we should be doing this now.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Scott, how about you?
I think, Kevin, those are really great points. When I was thinking about the impact of AI, not only on our business, but on businesses around the world, it reminded me of the early days of the internet when people didn't know what to do with it. And those who did know what was coming said, this is going to change the world, and it did. And I think of another kind of technology revolution with cell phones. I thought those were all part of the legend and lore of Star Trek, that you could carry a communicator with you. But today we're all living that dream, and who would do without a cell phone? How can you run a business or even get through an evening checking your Facebook or whatever it happens to be? AI is one of those transformational waves that are spreading over the globe, and people are asking the same questions they've asked before when technology is leading the way into a new future. But you're exactly right. You've got to be approaching this with eyes open, looking at risk, and being cautious as you start to apply the tools within your business.
Scott, that's a really great analogy, the one of the cell phone, which started out as this innocent thing and became something we all started to use and really love and get so much value out of. And now there's a question as to whether that dream of the cell phone is actually a nightmare because we're glued to it 24/7 and it's got a bit out of control. That's exactly where we are with 42001 and with AI, because if we're not careful, we'll find ourselves in a nightmare of implementing AI, and it's incredibly difficult to dig out of that hole if we haven't implemented it responsibly. So 42001 should help us get in front of that problem.
That's a very good point, Kevin and Scott. And it kind of leads to the next question. So, Scott, what is ISO 42001? And what makes it different from other ISO standards?
Yeah, I look at ISO 42001 as a roadmap to make clear what we don't know. And in fact, we don't know what we don't know when it comes to AI, with many of us who are just users trying to keep up with the tools and the news and our apps that bring out these new chat features that we can use and such. But we don't know what these tools are. We don't know how the information is generated. We don't know whether we can trust the information. So it really puts us at a disadvantage to get control or to avoid risk when you don't even understand any of it works. And this reminds me of when I first started working with ISO 27001, the information security standard. I'm not an IT guy. I don't know all the technologies. And it was an eye-opener for me to really begin to understand not only what the risks are, but how each risk can be controlled. And just like ISO 42001 has a set of annexes, 27001 has a lengthy annex called Annex A. And it gives you actions that can be taken, applied in your context, in order to mitigate risk. And 42001 is set up exactly the same way. So you really have to read the document in its entirety to get your head around what is AI, how does it really function, what impact can it have on a business, positively or negatively, and if it's negative, how serious can that problem be, and then how do you protect yourself? And 42001 really does a great job in pointing you in the right direction.
You know, it really, for a small business especially, not knowing what's what and what you can trust, it's really difficult to wrap your head around that. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely right.
I think the other thing to add here is, and you pulled this out really well, Scott, it's a framework that can be applied consistently on top of different applications of AI. So a business may use AI for many different things, and it's very easy when you're using it for many different things to think that you may need to govern it or ask questions in many different ways or many different types of governance systems and structures and questions. But AI gives you a logical framework for how to decide what to do in ways that's relevant for your particular business and applications. And it's generalizable and it's standardized, so it can be replicated easily.
Yeah, Kevin, I think that takes it off of the just react kind of a mindset, just react to what comes up, just deal with a problem if it comes up. This is much more of a proactive, holistic approach, as you've mentioned, and gives you that roadmap to really address AI in a responsible way with your business and your clients and your employees in mind.
All right. So, Kevin, who is ISO 42001 really for? Isn't it just something for big tech firms and data scientists and people that really need to pay attention and they're utilizing it in a way that it's in part of everything that they do or use? What about small companies and things like that?
Yeah, I love this question. And it's easy to think that AI is just for big tech firms and data scientists, and therefore so is 42001. But the reality is actually 42001 is applicable for most businesses. In fact, many businesses will be using AI, whether you're a local clinic using it for diagnosis or whether you're a retailer deploying chatbots. If you're working with data, your own data, if you're applying someone else's AI system on top of your own data, 42001 is relevant.
Okay.
It's relevant, therefore, for small businesses, large businesses across a range of different sectors. It's relevant for businesses looking to get that competitive advantage, the strategic lever that comes with AI, that are looking to build trust with consumers and partners, that have online applications and tools. And therefore, it can cross-cut many sectors like agriculture, education, public services, all of which will increasingly rely on AI decisions in some way, shape, and form, and that will affect the livelihoods of their clients and wider society. X, you even said at the beginning, you may use AI yourself in script generation. And that's just another example of where actually you might want to consider whether it's relevant for even an organization like yours.
Well, and also for me, I've had issues where it has hallucinated and, I'm asking it a question on we were doing a podcast on a specific clause in the standard. And I'm like, that's not the right clause, and it's like, oh, sorry, you're right. Pardon me. Let me get it right. And then it got the right one. But if I had not known that it was the incorrect clause, just think of the rabbit hole that could have led me down. And that's just one really small example. If you're dealing with agriculture, education, something that's making a decision on somebody's life and it hallucinates, that's a big concern. And how do we now try to mitigate that risk? And that's one of the reasons 42001's out there. So, Scott, isn't 42001 just for organizations that are developing AI? What about people like us, a small business, medium-sized businesses that are using these tools like ChatGPT, Claude, and others, Copilot? How does 42000 relate to that?
Well, we're reflecting on Kevin's comment about users needing to use AI in a responsible way. And in small business, probably, all the more, it's important to scrutinize what it is, the tools that you're using, how they're being used, how do you validate information, How do you ensure that you're protecting privacy of information?
Mm-hmm.
It's so easy to copy information and paste it into a chat, when you have a question, but should that information exit your organization, or is it exiting your organization?
Right.
Is it being maintained in a secure manner?
Yes.
So there's just a lot of aspects that need to be understood if you're going to apply any AI tool in any context, whether small business, medium, or large.
It's almost like you've got to put guardrails on how you're using AI, and 42001 helps you put some of those guardrails up of what questions you should be asking, what really small print you need to be reading before you use something.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, they can use this data anywhere they want now. Once that's put in, where's it go? Where's it stored? Who uses it?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, X.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of benefits of 42001, right? One is getting in front of the risk landscape. Two is enhancing accountability. And Scott, you gave a great example there of actually accountability in the use of AI within a business. Three is building trust and demonstrating that commitment to ethical and transparent AI practices.
Mm-hmm.
Four is our compliance with regulation piece. And then there's just the ability to improve decision making across the board if you're really leveraging AI effectively and getting that market advantage, which small businesses are really looking for.
Mm-hmm. So, Scott, how can ISO 42001 help us small businesses navigate the evolving AI regulatory landscape? A lot of times, we've talked about this on the Quality Hub podcast where people, I just want to do my job and AI seems to be helping. When's the government going to come in and put the rules in and what I have to deal with? How's 42001 going to help us when that starts to come around?
I look at it as a two-sided coin, X.
Mm-hmm.
One side is that 42001 is based on basic principles of responsible use,
Mm-hmm.
development, and use of AI. And so it implements a management system that helps to provide oversight and structure and corrective action and improvement as any ISO standard does.
Mm-hmm.
But an aspect of that is that it's built on basic principles in the annexes that help you get, to some degree, ahead of what the regulations are going to require or what they do require.
Right.
So there's commonalities between the controls that are necessary to meet a standard like 42001 and the controls that are necessary to meet a regulatory requirement of some sort. So I think there's a lot of commonality in that regard. The other side of the coin is that, again, just like every ISO standard, it asks you to consider the context of your organization and who your stakeholders are, including any legal obligations and regulatory requirements that may be relevant and applicable. So it asks you basically to go do a hunt or a search to understand the relevant requirements that your organization needs to meet, and then implement appropriate controls to ensure that you're staying in compliance with those regulations. So not only does it help you get ready, but it also helps you understand the regulations in detail and apply appropriate controls within your organization. So I think it just provides that guidance that you need to stay on the right path. Yeah,
and coming in again from ISO, it's not like this is new to them. We've been dealing with 14,001 for decades, 45,001. So from over here in America, you're dealing with EPA. So when you're dealing with environmental, you're dealing with OSHA and other things for health and safety. ISO knows what they're doing when it's coming to regulation of how to guide you, like you said, to search for what you need to know and mitigate those risks. This ends part one of our discussion with Kevin and Scott on ISO 42001. Please tune in next week where we'll discuss how implementing ISO 42001 can help organizations manage AI and other aspects in regards to 42001. We want to thank everyone who's listened to our podcast today. We hope it's been informative for you. Now, if you're looking for more information about how Core Business Solutions, now that we are an LRQA company, and how we can help you with ISO certification, cybersecurity, 42001, or even customized training, please email us at info@thecoresolution.com. You can also visit our website at www.thecoresolution.com. And if you haven't already followed us on your favorite podcast platform or YouTube, please be sure to do so, and that way you won't miss the next Quality Hub podcast when it's released next week. Have a great day, everyone.